Rebs? Welcome back to the first episode of RebelWatch this season. We have a brand new cast this year.
Good evening. I'm Max Certuse.
I'm Mariah Evans.
I'm your host, Erika Dierke.
And I'm Henry Stuart.
Today we are talking all things football. It's that time of year. That's the only thing that I think is interesting to talk about. And we had a win last week against Kentucky. What are we thinking about that game? Is it promising? Was it not so promising? What are we thinking?
I'm thinking it was a shaky start to me. I'm just kind of scared looking at that game going into this week. But I do think it was some improvements from Georgia State's game, which was the running game and the resilience even after the first two turnovers. And I also think the game management was really good this game, but I do think it's shaky going into Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, let's unpack it. You know, it's the second game of the season right now for the Rebels. It's a big away game. You know, you don't have that home atmosphere. You're not playing a team like GSU anymore. But, you know, I think there were some good things and bad things that we should all unpack today. I mean, I'm sure, Henry, we were talking about the bads earlier off camera.
Yes.
But, I mean, we started 10-0. We went down 10-0 down the road. Let's talk about what was the problem in this game. Let's start with that, right?
Yeah, I think the problem really is, unfortunately, it's the offensive line. Pass protection for Ole Miss has just not been good, and it's interesting because the run game has been so strong in running protection. You know, the run blocking, the schemes that have been dialed up are just on point. Kawan Lacey has been just absolutely phenomenal. You know, 28 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown, was averaging 4.9 yards a carry. He's been terrific. He really put the team on his back on Saturday.
Yeah, I do agree that offensive line seems to be struggling. They have had good inside run, though. I got to give that to them. But totally with the pass protection, there needs to be issues that got to be cleaned up before this week's game against Arkansas.
So correct me if I'm wrong, we did not allow Kentucky to have a sack, though.
We did not.
No, we didn't.
So I definitely think that's an improvement, and I do think, like, the rhetoric is there. We have a bad offensive line, and I do think it was more promising than it was last week. Like, I was not offended by our offensive line. I think the big thing is in our first two games, we can see that, like, our first quarter is not our best quarter.
Right.
And so I think we really need to keep that in mind going into this Arkansas game.
Certainly, and let's take the term bad offensive line. I don't think there is such a thing, right? There's issues that we have to work on. Right now, I think a big point of emphasis for the Rebels should be center number 75, Patrick Kudas. Formerly played at Arkansas, ironically, for this game coming up. He only started 4 games last season, some due to a back injury, transferred to Ole Miss, and he had a couple muffed snaps, but that's, as a center, your job is to get that down. That is a fundamental issue, right? But if we get the fundamentals cleaned up, I think this team has potential to go far.
I 100% agree. You know, that first Austin Simmons interception, you know, it's a bad snap that's picked up on the turf. He picks it up and just kind of panics with it. I want to say you're right. We have not given up a sack. That is 100% true. But here's the thing. We're allowing Austin Simmons to face pressure and be harassed in the backfield. And he is not as mobile maybe as we thought he might be kind of coming into this season. So he's not Jackson Dart. He's not able to escape the pocket, make these big plays downfield, make these throws, you know, maybe run downfield. He doesn't have that ability, and that's no disrespect to him. That just speaks to how truly special Jackson Dart was, wearing the blue and the red here. But, you know, I think that there definitely needs to be some evaluation on the offensive line. They're not bad. You're right. There is no such thing as a bad offensive line. This is a very young and kind of inexperienced offensive line. They're learning how to play with one another. There wasn't a lot of homegrown kind of talent that was kept from this past season. It was a lot of just, you know, transfer portal guys, and that takes time for chemistry to be built.
So these two interceptions, that's 2 interceptions again.
Yes.
Are we alarmed? Is this something to be worried about?
I'm flashing the red alarms right now as we speak, because going against another SEC defense, I'm just really worried that he's going to try to force another play. I think that's something that really needs to be worked on when it comes to Austin Simmons. You can't force these plays. If they're not there, they're not there. You're probably going to have to run or something. So I think that's something they're going to have to sit down and talk to him. If the offensive line can't hold up, you're going to have to run or something.
Yeah, throw it to the side.
Yeah.
Well, now let me play devil's advocate. I guess in this case it could be Simmons' advocate, right? Because I think right now, you know, out of those 4 interceptions, 2 of those have been off the hit. So those have been 2 times where Simmons hasn't had the best protection to make those passes. I think if you kind of take those away and, you know, you shift some of that blame onto the offensive line, like we were saying earlier, I think that you could see that he's becoming a very efficient passer when given the proper time. So I do think he's developing well as a quarterback. Remember, this kid's a rookie, all right? You know, he had that one game last year against Georgia, but I think, and not to say that any of those takes are invalid, but I do think it's something to say that, you know, we can't make any judgments yet because he is clicking as this entire offense is, and as the captain of that offense, I think it is kind of a precedent that he is clicking along with it.
I 100% agree with you. He has and was making fantastic throws against Kentucky. It's just that decision making that needs just a little bit more work. Yeah. And to your point, Max, you're 100% right. How are you expecting him to be able to make these reads, progress through his routes, and step up in the pocket if he doesn't have the time to do that? The other thing that I think that he could work on, in my opinion, is just being content with taking a check down. There's a drag, there's a running back coming out of the backfield, being okay with just taking that and not trying to make a throw that's 15, 20 yards downfield. You don't need to score a touchdown on every single play. If the defense is giving you something, take it. Kentucky is a phenomenal defensive team. If they're giving you a gift, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Just take it.
Yeah, and I like how he is keeping his composure when all these things are happening, whether it's his fault or not. That's a really hard skill as a rookie.
Right.
I don't know if any of you guys saw the Vikings game with JJ McCarthy, but I think it was very similar to that. I think they both were resilient and maintaining their composure, which I think as rookies is just such an important skill and really kept us in this game.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, I do like seeing that when he does do these turnovers. I don't see worriedness come over his face or anything. I see he's still calm and he can regroup and come back for another play. I do like that.
Yeah, I think the quarterback position is one of those things that you can't really view as interchangeable as you'd like. Quarterback is a position that needs time to develop. You see so many times in the NFL, times where these rookies are thrown into the spotlight, and it can really go either way. You look at guys like Jaden Daniels, great rookie season, amazing. But then you look at other guys, that haven't been so fortunate. Caleb Williams, first round pick. It's like you have to give these guys time to develop. And a lot of times you can have great flash out years. Look at Mac Jones for the Patriots a couple years ago, but then it falls off right there. So, I'm translating that NFL stuff to this college stuff. And especially nowadays with the NIL stuff, everybody's getting interchanged, plugged in and out. But this kind of position is not something where you can just kind of slide into it like a cheap pair of slippers.
I want to step away from the quarterback and just talk about other offensive MVPs that we maybe have. Like, who is standing out to you on our offense?
Deuce Alexander, the Wake Forest transfer at wide receiver, looked phenomenal. He had some big plays, a 30, 40-yard chunk play in the first quarter. 4 catches for 68 yards. Yeah, he didn't get into the end zone, but still, you grab the ball 4 times and you go about essentially 3/4 of a football field. That's impressive. And for a guy that has been, maybe overshadowed in the portal when he was recruited and committed and, even on the field, DeJon Stribling, Trey Wallace, those are guys that you're going to be talking about, Daquan Wright, whatever. But Deuce Alexander is quietly making a name for himself, very much giving me Caden Lee vibes from this past season.
Yeah, I think it's still Keyone Lacy for me. Still the star of the show this week going into it. He done carried the Rebel offense 2 weeks in a row. And in fourth quarter, in that clutch run with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, that sealed the win for me when he made that run. And I don't think Ole Miss won this without him. So
no, I totally agree. That you got to give flowers to Keyone Lacy. I mean, this guy is one of the hardest runners right now in the SEC. I think if you analyze everybody, his competition, he is really kind of the person taking the pressure off Simmons right now. And again, that's the thing. He's helping kind of fluctuate this entire offense to start moving more fluidly. You can take off pressure from the quarterback, and then the running back does better. Then the running back relies on the offensive line. You really see this stuff is clicking together, but it's definitely taking pressure off both offensive line and quarterback when you have a guy like Keyone Lacy in the backfield. 100%.
Shout out to Logan Diggs as well, able to kind of come in and supplement Lacy, give him a rest, keep him fresh, because that's something we weren't able to do last year. It was basically just, Henry Parrish for 30 yards a carry. He gets hurt against Arkansas and is out for the season, and our run game kind of falls apart in that regard. And Jackson Dart, phenomenal quarterback, but he can't win a game all by himself. So we're seeing the value, once again, of a consistent, stable running game only 2 weeks into the season.
Speaking of 2 weeks into the season, we had some other really great games in our conference, and we are definitely going to get into them after the break.
It's that time of the year again, fellas. When the mornings are hot, the afternoons are hotter, and football is on its way back. Now, games is won by the battles fought in August. Everyone that's not revered as an Ole Miss legend has been in your shoes before, trying to survive that Mississippi heat, competing for a spot, and knowing the sacrifice that it takes to make it in this league. You go into this money collection of men from 100 different places, and if you work, you'll emerge from it as one team with one goal and one heartbeat. The SEC awaits you. And if they don't know who you are now, they will soon.
The dynamic freshman is starting to make his impact. Dagger with the shot clock down to 1.
That 3-ball drops for Jamin Brakefield.
Fagan from the corner with a triple. Burrell for 3, and that's a big response. 3-ball, yes. Miss shooting lights out of the pavilion.
Ed, give him one more.
Wow. Alley. Oh.
No, you can't teach that.
Well, that should give Ole Miss a boost.
Ole Miss 18th NCAA tournament appearance.
This is fun, folks.
As Baker's peeling it, little heat check. Snow Collins for 3. Bring it up.
Said, I love Madison Scott.
Ole Miss Rebels are having a lot of fun, and you can see why.
Welcome back. So it was a big week for SEC games. I want to start by talking about the only SEC team that lost this weekend, Florida versus USF. What do we think?
Well, I think you want to start off with any way a good team should start off. It's with the head coach, and I think now we have a kind of a hot seat situation. I think we can speak on a little bit.
100%. Billy Napier, I mean, this kind of is a make or break here. You've got a phenomenal quarterback in DJ Lagway, one of the highest rated prospects coming out of high school, Willis, Texas. And he's phenomenal. DJ Lagway, he's a fantastic quarterback. It comes down to coaching. It comes down to preparation. This is a stat that blew me away. Florida committed 11 penalties for 103 yards against USF on Saturday. You commit over 100 yards. That is a full football field worth of penalties. You're not going to win the game. It's not going to show up It's not going to show up in the box for the offense. When you're looking at the stats after the game. But that is helping the offense. So you commit penalties like that, it shows a lack of discipline, it shows a lack of control over your locker room, and it shows a complete and utter failure to prepare. USF was a team that had just beaten down Boise State, a very good team in the college football playoff, 25th in the country. You know that USF is going to be coming in looking for a statement win, and they get that. This is their first ranked win since 2016. They beat Navy in October of that season. This is their first win over a top 15 team since they beat West Virginia in 2007. Both of those teams were members of the Big East Conference at that point. Easily one of the greatest college football seasons of all time. That is the last time that USF managed to win a game over a team ranked inside the top 15. This is the only time that they have beaten Florida too, and it's their first ever ranked road win over a top 15 team. All of these milestones and your failure to prepare has given those accolades to South Florida, but I want to give them their flowers. Byron Brown played a phenomenal game at quarterback, put the team on his back, leading rusher, led them into the end zone. He scored all of their touchdowns. All the credit in the world of South Florida, but Billy Napier and the Florida Gators lost themselves this game.
I think I saw somebody say it must have been Florida's head coach must have wrote his plays on a crayon box or something because it was just sloppy offense, and then they had so many red zone failures. It was just like, I want to turn my TV off watching this coaching because what is this? I think if they lose this weekend, I don't know who they play this weekend. Who they play this weekend?
They're going on the road at LSU this weekend.
Oh, well, I think if they lose this weekend, there might be some tough questions about who's going to be the coach for next season. I think that's it.
Certainly, and I think that's the issue right now is, Henry, kind of like you stated, all the issues this week were with discipline.
Yes.
You talk about penalties. That's not a fundamental issue on the players. That stuff stems from what you teach as a program, and that stems from being the head coach. And it's disappointing. I'm a Florida fan. The great Urban Meyer would be rolling in his football grave right now to see stuff like this.
That.
Well,
not the great.
I completely think that Florida in the past couple years. Now, granted, they have had extremely difficult schedules, but it's kind of going downhill, and I don't think Billy Napier's the guy to take them out of that.
I agree, but also, I get Urban Meyer was a heck of a ball coach, but Urban Meyer is also about the furthest thing away from a disciplinarian. I just need to say the name Aaron Hernandez, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, you know what? I think for every good, there's a bad, and for every Aaron Hernandez, there's a Tim Tebow, and that's my guy. And I think that's the guy that kind of fled that 2006 dynasty.
Next week, Florida will be playing LSU. What did we think about LSU?
They looked horrendous. This is a Louisiana Tech team who has a head coach in Sonny Cumbie who's been on the hot seat now for coming into his second year. They went 5-8. They earned a bowl bid due to a shortage of teams. Marshall had to withdraw from the Independence Bowl because of Charles Huff leaving, that whole fiasco. So this is a team that was 3 games below 500 when you normally would finish 2. And they go into Baton Rouge, and they literally keep up with LSU for the majority of the game. The final score doesn't show that, but LSU, they put up about 350, 360 yards of offense, but couldn't get into the end zone. If you're struggling to get into the end zone against Louisiana Tech, you have a major you've got a world of hurt coming. Here's the other thing. Louisiana Tech put up 150 total yards of offense. That's a stat line maybe for a quarterback on a bad day, a good day for a running back. A single player can achieve the total amount of offense that the Bulldogs produced in Baton Rouge on Saturday. I'm scared if I'm an LSU fan. Garrett Nussmeier didn't look good. Barry and Brown didn't look good. No one on LSU looked good. The only unit that did was the defense. Granted, I will give them a lot of credit. Holding any team to 150 yards at the FBS level is impressive, regardless of who it is. But I'm scared, and this is another Brian Kelly disaster class.
I don't think Nussmeier looked good at all. I don't think it was a very promising game.
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game to watch for sure. And I think it's going to be kind of they have a little bit of leeway for the fact that they are playing Florida right now, but I think it's going to be something to keep their eye on for sure.
Well, I mean, these are 2 teams that both are coming off really bad weeks, and we are used to them being the blue bloods, the cream of the crop of the SEC, and they're coming in and they're playing just very lackadaisical, just mediocre football, making simple mistakes, a lack of discipline. They can't get into the end zone. Either offense is looking that great, and either defense is looking that great. Battle of Mid is coming up in Death Valley on Saturday, and I never thought I'd be saying that about LSU, Florida.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Who do you think will win the game, though?
I'm thinking a lot about that before the start of the show. I genuinely do not have an answer for you. I really don't know. I think LSU simply because they're playing in Death Valley. They don't lose those types of games.
Are there any other games that stood out week 2?
Oklahoma and Michigan. I really enjoyed watching Oklahoma's quarterback, John Mateer. He just impressed me all around. He's a dual-threat quarterback through and through. If he doesn't see it down the field, he's going to run in. He's hard to tackle. I think they said he's squatting like 400-something pounds. He's not human, squatting that much. But also, I just think Oklahoma's defense, I love their defensive coach because he's able to switch up the passes. He sees one look, like a quarterback, like a young quarterback can see one thing, one look, and then he switches up post-snap, and that's super impressive to me, and I'm really worried when we play Oklahoma that they will be able to switch it up like that with Austin Simmons being a young quarterback.
100% agree. The thing that I love about the Oklahoma defense is it's completely shifting the identity of Sooner football. We're used to these high-flying 60 points a game, 500 yards through the air offenses that we saw under Lincoln Riley, the great quarterbacks of Oklahoma, Jason White, Sam Bradford, even Landry Jones had some success, and then you get into the Heisman winners, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, some really big names that played quarterback. So I feel like they really have a quarterback now for the first time, but they're a defensive team now, which is why I think them having John Mateer as a true quarterback is such a big deal. Brent Venables is the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. He was the defensive coordinator at Clemson before he made the transition over, and it shocked a lot of people that they would go in the direction of hiring a defensive-minded coach. So he calls Oklahoma's defensive plays. They don't have a singular defensive coordinator. It's primarily Brent Venables with maybe some of his assistants helping out. I love the Oklahoma defense. They're physical, they're tough, they're nasty. That is the only reason I think that they went to a bowl game last year, because the offense last year was not it, but they've got their quarterback now, and the Sooners are rolling.
And that's what's so tactical about their defense is that you have really good athletes mixed with an extremely good coaching mind in that defensive position, and it's been a fun team to watch.
Yeah. Very much so.
Final thoughts. Anyone have anything to say about our neighbors in Starkville upsetting Arizona State?
Yeah, I do actually. I want to talk about QB Blake Shapen. I think that was actually an extremely impressive game by him. I think that was definitely State's probably best win so far this year, and you could probably give that to them over a couple of their losses and wins last year. That was just a great performance. No turnovers, 3 touchdowns, 279 yards passing. He's putting it together, and I really am interested to see how his game improves over the season.
I think he's shaping up to be a very good quarterback. And we will talk week 3, specifically Ole Miss versus Arkansas. I am very excited to see what we all think after the break.
My passion is journalism. Here at the University of Mississippi, we produce a nightly half-hour newscast, broadcasting regionally on cable and globally on the World Wide Web. It's the kind of experience that is preparing me to walk into any news station in the country with the skills and abilities I need to succeed. So it's not just preparing me for the real world, it is the real world.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
We are rebels. For more than 160 years, we've been accomplishing the impossible, from conducting the world's first lung transplant to helping prove Einstein was right. From preserving the past to saving the future. We are Mississippi's flagship university, a place where passion and learning unite, where friends become family, where small-town charm meets world-class innovation. We are the University of Mississippi. We are Ole Miss.
All right, welcome back. So next week is week 3, and we will be playing Arkansas, who we absolutely demolished last year. But compared to our last 2 opponents, I do think that this is kind of a new level of play. So what are we all thinking? Do we think Ole Miss is going to take the dub?
I think Arkansas is winning this week, and it's going to be a close game. Yes, I am being controversial, but I'm standing on it. I think it would be either a field goal of a win or it would be a touchdown of a win, because Arkansas is just really just averaging high points and producing big plays. And I really like their quarterback, a veteran quarterback who's going to be poised on the SEC defense, and I think he's going to come in here and probably silence the noise. I do.
Well, Mariah, you got some good points, and I think there's some maybe things we need to work on there. Let's talk about the pros for the Razorbacks, right? They play great run defense, insanely good run defense, and I think that's all because of number 10 on the defense. I'm not even talking about behind center here. Xavier Sori Jr. This guy played 2 years at Georgia. He will be, in my opinion, the best linebacker the Rebels will face all year, if not one of. He is a hard hitter, and I just don't see how they're going to be able to kind of, Keelan Lacey is going to meet his match, I think, in terms of getting that inside run established. Meet his match, maybe that's a little bit hyperbole, but I think he's going to have trouble establishing the same run game that he did the past 2 weeks against this guy. Let's talk about their quarterback, number 66. Extremely good out of the pocket. He is a scrambler. He is a great running quarterback. That's going to be something that Ole Miss's defense and secondary is going to have to keep an eye out for. But I think there are definitely some bad parts we could touch on, too, of the Arkansas team right now.
100%. Their run defense is absolutely stout, but their secondary is very much kind of reeling and getting, Xavier. That's a huge get. Landon Jackson was kind of the heart and soul of that defense at linebacker, number 47. He gets drafted in the end. He goes into the draft, gets drafted in the 3rd round. He's a heck of a ball player. So losing someone like that, although he wasn't necessarily a corner by trade, he still knew how to play in the secondary and kind of was able to help mentor some of those defensive backs. And Arkansas brought in a lot of new people, so that secondary has just been very weak, and it needs to mesh together a little bit. Arkansas also hasn't played the best of competition. They played Alabama A&M week 1, then they go on the road and head to Little Rock and play Arkansas State. Fun fact, first time those 2 teams have ever met on the gridiron. Just wanted to point that out. But, they win that game handily, and the big reason for that is the offense. Bobby Petrino, former Razorbacks head coach, a name that lives in infamy with many an SEC fan, particularly here in Oxford, is the offensive coordinator and has put up over 1,100 yards of total offense between 2 games. Taylon Green has been playing lights out. Mike Washington Jr., also fantastic, 195 yards, averaging 10.8 yards a carry. Also, Taylon Green, to speak just how good he is the second leading rusher on the team. He is only 3 yards behind Mike Washington Jr. with 192, averaging 10.7 yards a carry. They love to run the ball outside zones, but they also love to go inside, hitch in the mouth, power run schemes. I think it's going to be imperative for Ole Miss to get on the ball, control the line of scrimmage, whether it's on the outside or whether it's coming up the middle. The run defense has got to be on point for Ole Miss on Saturday.
Only reason why I really went with Arkansas is because Ole Miss started slow like they did with Kentucky, and Arkansas offense is just explosive to me right now, and I think that's a dangerous combo. If you let that Arkansas offense just keep getting rolling, then Ole Miss has that slow start like they did with Kentucky. I'm worried that it'll be too late in the fourth quarter to come back.
Yeah, it's all about that defensive coordinator, Travis Williams. He was formerly at Auburn, then he was at UCF, I believe. And then, he is the master of plugging in different schemes in order to kind of dictate what's going to happen with his defense. He has adapted so well to every game that he's played, but I think there's so much pressure on head coach Sam Pittman this year because there is a lot of conversation, will this be his last year? He is also in a hot seat, but he is certainly an extremely tough coach. He's a guy that has instilled a lot of integrity into that program and a lot of just hard-headedness.
Yeah, 100%. It's hard to win in the SEC. It's hard to do so when you're in a position like Arkansas that kind of falls between, the upper half of the SEC and the bottom half. Sam Pittman has brought the Razorbacks consistency they really have not seen in quite some time. They've won. The only season that Arkansas has failed to reach a bowl game was 2020. That was Sam Pittman's first season at the helm of the Razorbacks. So I think he definitely is on the hot seat, but he's got a good coaching staff assembled, especially with his offensive coordinator, who is definitely going to be trying to cause some problems for the Rebels on Saturday afternoon. I think it really just comes down to defense. I talked about it earlier, but defense is going to win this game, and I think Ole Miss is going to come away with the victory, but I think it'll be close, and I think it's going to be a lot of points put up.
I certainly think that Mariah is right, that it's going to be a close game because besides last year when we just boat raced them, we really had a really strong and kind of record performance last year.
Shout out Jordan Watkins.
Shout out to Jordan Watkins. Unstoppable amount of touchdowns. I couldn't believe it. But we do have a history of playing this team, and they're all historically very close. So there is a precedent outside of last year for these games to be within one score, very close to each other.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to almost go back to something that you said, Henry. Let's not say that this game is all going to come down to defense. I want to talk about my favorite third of the game, which is special teams. In the past 2 games, Arkansas has led up 14 points. One of those, if you can recall last week, was from a kick return.
Yes.
I think Ole Miss, our special teams unit, has been extremely good on the kick coverage. Arkansas will have a kick return for a touchdown, and our special teams are going to be detrimental because hopefully we can expose that part of their ball, and I think we really can. I think that so far we have guys like Trey Wallace as punt returners. Our kick coverage has been great. I think that's going to be another deciding factor of this game.
100%. Shout out to place kicker Lucas Carniero. He missed his first field goal of the season, and granted it was a 51-yard field goal on the road in his first true road game. He'd been playing at Western Kentucky. He may be playing in the same state, but Kroger Field is a heck of a different scenario than you are playing in Bowling Green, Kentucky, just down the road. But
yeah, and shout out punter Oscar Bird, number 33.
Oh, he's been terrific.
It's his 3rd football game ever. This guy is from Australia, hasn't played a lick of football, American football before, and now he's down here playing for the Rebels. His punts have been extremely precise, and I think that's something that you can't really, just swipe under the rug. That is an important part of the game, and to say that it's his 3rd football game ever, that's impressive.
Okay, final predictions. Who's winning? Scores. Go.
Everybody knows me. I'm Arkansas.
What's the score?
27-20.
I've got the Rebels 31-27.
Rebels 35-14.
I think it's gonna be higher scoring than that. I think it'll. One of the teams will touch the 40s, but Ole Miss is gonna win. I don't know.
So I'm by myself.
Only time will tell.
Unfortunately, hey, you pick against the hometown team.
And next time we see you, we will know for sure who won and by how much. And I cannot wait. But today we unfortunately have to wrap up our first episode of Rebel Watch. We will see you all next week. As always, I have been your host, Erika Dierke.
I'm Henry Stuart.
I'm Mariah Evans.
Max Certuse.
Thank you so much.